fall, but I can't lose this.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
From the dash at America's National Park of Speed to the duel on the streets of Detroit. Just 2 races are left in 2021, and today presents an opportunity for the Lionheart King Adam Blocker to secure his 4th title on the trot without needing to endure the high-speed, adrenaline-filled double-point showdown that awaits in Fontana. To do that, he'll need to conquer the streets of Detroit again, where Blocker won both races in the doubleheader night 2 seasons ago, leading every single lap in another dominant performance. This is Belle Isle, and this is the AlkenTech Simulation Grand Prix of Detroit. Hello and welcome back to RaceSpotTV for coverage of the 2021 Lionheart IndyCar Series and round 2020. round 21, in the 2021 campaign. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15 for 15% off all orders. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined once more in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth by Justin Prince. Reminder, you can follow along with live timing and scoring powered by our partners at ATVO. Follow your favorite team and drivers by heading to RaceSpot.tv/Indy. Justin, it's been a roller coaster ride as we take a look at our Butt Kicker pre-race show and talk about the season that has been. Adam Blocker is inevitable. He managed to win against all odds last time out as we went racing at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, America's National Park of Speed. But today is a very different challenge. It's not just about conquering the drivers. Conquering the track is going to be crucial. Mastering the strategy. So many elements left to be played out here today. A very intense race about to get underway.
When it comes to Belle Isle, this is not an easy circuit to try and battle at, Arjuna, because while this is my home track, just across the river, myself I am right now, when it comes to the circuit, it's very tight. There's a lot of potential areas where you can get into massive track blockers or scrape the walls. It's so easy to make major mistakes and end up causing a 10-car pileup. In turn, you need to be smart when it comes to trying to make passes, and that strategy can be so critical to try and leapfrog some of your fellow competitors on the racetrack today. In other words, if you want to win at Belle Isle, you need to execute everything to a T and make sure you're prepared to be able to perform right.
And I think the interesting thing here is one of the few times the Lionheart Racing Series on the road courses has seen a caution was at this very track. Track blockers, always an ever-present threat. Hopefully Adam Blocker doesn't cause the track blocker out on track. Take a look at the schedule. It's been a long road from the beginning of March now to the middle of November. It will be a couple of weeks before we head to the Auto Club Speedway for that adrenaline-filled double point showdown in what is likely to be a helter-skelter sort of a race where action from the drop of the green to the drop of the checkered all the way for 500 miles of racing. But it's been a story of Adam Blocker being inevitable. Every time he has raced in this series in 2021, he's finished inside of the top 5. An average finish on the podium. Absolutely incredible. And as we talk about these driver standings presented by Butt Kicker Justin, the story of today is Adam Blocker needs to finish 17th place or higher and he'll secure the Drivers' Championship. Why is that important? Well, because Adam Blocker might be missing our double point showdown to close off the season because of his real-world duties with the NTT IndyCar Series.
Yeah, that's still in a lot of up-in-the-air moments when it comes to that potential possibility, but with the consistency shown by Adam Blocker, here's something to consider. It's not just the matter of he's finished every race in the top 5, it's the matter that he's essentially won half the races he started the season and finished second in an additional 3. He has a stellar performance record this season, along with his 3 poles. It's been so difficult for Connor Harrington in turn where any other season, Arjuna, we're talking about Harrington as being the championship leader likely if Blocker isn't there, because he's been quick as well. It's just been the matter that Blocker's been so dominant, especially on the road courses, for the drop of the green flag this season, and it's made things so intriguing. But look at some of the air drivers recently who have jumped up the boards. Henry Bennett, up to 3rd quietly. Kinsella, up to 4th quietly. Joshua Chin, he's tumbled down the standings the past few weeks.
Yeah, and another thing to point out is these are the driver standings. There is a road championship which will be decided today as well. We'll get you the update hopefully in our post-race coverage presented by HyperX as to how things shake out. Still a close battle for 3rd on back. Henry Bennett at one point did have a bit more of a margin, but a race suspension end-of-line penalty really put paid to his hopes of securing 3rd in the championship in his rookie campaign early on. In a bit of doubt. Here's a look at your team standings presented by HyperX. It's been about the well-oiled machine that is the private label Team Hype. Not 100% sure because never trust a commentator's math, we're being completely honest. I believe private label Team Hype might already have locked up that championship, but of course the drop weeks might play into that. Adrenaline Motorsports Red do sit in 2nd, but there's some close battles further down the field. Adrenaline Motorsports Black embroiled with Synergy Motorsports. Black Sector 5 not too far behind Adam Blocker. To give you an indication of how dominant he's been, sits in 8th position all by himself in these team standings presented by HyperX. Let's talk about the rookie class though, Justin. Rookies is not something you necessarily associate with people like Henry Bennett, Jason Brophy. Lots of experience in IndyCars here on the iRacing service, but Henry Bennett's consistency and strength on the road courses has led him to build up this advantage. He can secure these rookie championships heading into that final double points race.
And it helps when you have good speed on the road courses like Bennett. Jason Brophy, on the other hand, Arjuna, he is around middle of the grouping when it comes to that this season. But don't look now, there's a couple different positions that could also change. Mike Rasmus has shown some decent speed. Matt Taylor, he's looking for something to go his way after a rough couple weeks in speedway racing. And a couple others, they may be threats for a top 10 run at minimum, Arjuna. So there's a chance for a bit of shuffling third on back here before the season finale.
Taylor's looking for luck in anything, even in the Lotus 79 in the Retro Series, where he's also fighting for the championship, has just not gone his way in the recent couple of weeks. Here are the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to also use promo code Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. It's the 9th season of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, closing in on Season 10, which will be upon you live on RaceSpotTV in 2022. All drivers fighting with a Dallara IR18 with a custom fixed setup designed by Andrew Kinsella, RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella, with drivers fighting for their share of just about $9,000 in cash and prizes. The Triple Crown, 2 races have gone to Adam Blocker. Big question is whether he'll be around to try and secure the 3rd. Should be noted, never has a driver won all 3 Triple Crown events in a year. Not just here in the IndyCar Series is that possible, but in the Retro Series, well, a certain Mark Cohn of the race control team for today's action also trying to do the triple when the Retro Series and the Lotus 79 head for their double points finale in Fontana. Defending champion Adam Blocker, defending team champions Adrenaline Motorsports Red, but it does look likely that we'll see a new champion at least in the team's championship. Here's a look at the event details then, Justin. A return to the streets of Detroit after Season 7 saw a 2-part duel. And why is that interesting? Because 2 races in one night at a track where it's tough enough to survive 1 race. Adam Blocker, the only driver to have led a lap in those previous 2 races, the second of which did see a safety car deployed after incidents early in the race. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get through the opening laps without the safety car, but drivers have been pretty clean over the course so far of 2021. We had a street race at Long Beach that went pretty safely. Wouldn't be surprised if it's the same here today.
I think this is going to be an intriguing one overall, to say the very least, though. That's the main thing to consider here, because this is such a very difficult racetrack to be able to master and get right. To be able to hit your braking marks right. To be able to make sure you don't lock up into the corners. All that's going to be pivotal, especially with this being a racetrack notorious for being fairly difficult to try and get a pass done. So in turn, the patience levels for many drivers are going to be tested today, as well as their abilities to be able to drive on forward in some cases and avoid potential carnage here at this historic island.
Great view of the track, that aerial look, like Justin said, just on the other side of the river. Canadian soil. For some drivers, it is in effect a local hometown race. For Adam Blocker, who used to be down in North Carolina, now has moved to the Motor City as part of his responsibilities with Ilmore Engineering. It'll be a home race for him as well. Qualifying is underway. Drivers get 10 minutes and the track all to themselves to set their fastest qualifying lap across 4 flying attempts. You can come down into pit road if that's what you want to do, but I'd be pretty shocked if that's what we see up and down through the field. Tell you what though, let's try and jump on board with Adam Blocker, who's working his way down the back straightaway into the second sector of the track, and we'll ride around with him the next time around. But bumps. This is an interesting track, Justin. More bumpy than what we see at Long Beach. Managing those bumps going to be crucial today.
This actually is 4th lap here, Arjuna, already, but you can just see how much those bumps are shaking around his steering column right now and how much he's going to have to be careful on the throttle because you get too hard back into the gas here. You light up those tires, you're likely spinning right into the wall and completely damaging your front wing. You need to be precise on those exact movements and your throttle inputs. Currently, right now, he's got the top time recorded. This time around, he just topped it with a 1:15.2 to end off his qualifying.
2/10 clear as the Canadian Brian Carey pops himself up into the top 3. Works his way through turn 1 and 2. Who remembers the disaster for the Corvette pace car running over the crest of that turn 2 exit and making a mess of things in the NTT IndyCar Series race. Carey a little bit deep, working his way back through these double right-handers. 90-degree corners, but not as easy as they seem. Very much more challenging than one would expect. Looks like Brian Carey might be done for qualifying, or I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Connor Harrington has also pulled it to the side. The Lionheart Retro Series defending champion Ryan Otis, who's been very impressive over the course of 2021 here in the IndyCars as he takes on a new challenge. Well, as I say that, commentators curse. Well, the second to last corner bites Ryan Otis pretty hard.
Exactly what I'm talking about. You don't get it timed up right, especially on those moments you'll crash, just like Joshua Chin has apparently crashed, and, wow, his car's doing a dance, apparently.
We're picking up all the interesting things. That's what I'm finding here. Ryan Otis has rolled himself back onto track, so I think we're going to see him potentially gear on up for another flyer. But I tell you what, I think Andrew Kinsella has yet to actually put in a time. He's about to get onto his 4th and final qualifying attempt. This is crucial. You cannot afford to start at the tail end of a race on a street circuit, let alone at Belle Isle, no matter how racy it can be. Powering out of the final corner, across the line, Andrew Kinsella gets started. Brake just before the 200 on the left-hand side. Be careful of the understeer. Kinsella, last time around, actually put in a time. It's only a 1:16.425. Only good enough for 13th position. That is not what he would have wanted.
I think at that point, Arjuna, with it being his 4th time around the racetrack total, it was more so just get the time in than let's get this up on the top of the board and risk it there. As Ryan Otis, I think, just realized he can't put in one more lap. The only driver I'm seeing who has not completed 3 or 4 laps currently, who's qualifying, is Ricky Harden, keep in mind. I think at this point, the 95's taking the opportunity to just practice at the end of the racetrack as Harden now goes for the tire chicanes, and that's his qualifying.
Yeah, I think cold tires, that's going to be crucial here today, and so I'm not entirely surprised to be seeing Ryan Otis just resetting himself and getting that experience of rolling off of pit lane with cold Firestone tires and understanding exactly how that is going to feel for him across a race where we expect 2 pit stops. Drivers do have to take both the primary and the alternate tires in today's action. The Black Mark primary tire a little bit harder, not necessarily as grippy early in the stint, but it will wear off a little bit slower, will give you a bit more grip at the end of your stint. In comparison, the Red Mark alternate, very soft, very grippy early on, does tend to burn out. How do you manage that? It is going to be a 53-lap affair. Fuel window anywhere from 17 to 18 seconds. But with that said, qualifying is in the books. Let's go trackside in the Motor City. Take a look at our starting grid here on the streets of Detroit. And on pole once more, Adam Blocker looks to make sure no one else can lead a lap here on the streets of Belle Isle. A 1:15.232. His main championship rival will be alongside on the front row. Connor Harrington, less than half a tenth behind. Aaron Morgan, Ryan Otis alongside on row 2 with Brian Carey, Joshua Chin, 5th and 6th positions. Great qualifying performance for Brian Carey. Brian Beard, Tyler Graff, 7th and 8th positions with Lionel Kalisto and James Brunt to round out the top 10. Almost a full second between 1st and 10th position. Jason Brophy, one of his better qualifying performances on the road courses, I should say, back in 11th alongside Mike Rasmas, Barrett Rolfe, Adam Frazier, 13th and 14th, with Andrew Kinsella and Matt Houston, row number 8. Stefan Larkamp in 17th alongside Scott Holmes, both drivers looking for some valuable points in the team's championship, with Joe Branch of the Coca-Cola machine alongside Alexis Newsom. Phil Krause, end-of-line penalty for him, but he'll be starting from the back with Luis Gonzalez, Nunez, Michael O'Brien, Matt Taylor, all cars not setting qualifying lap times, including Tony Schowen, Ricky Harding, Paul Jenkins, and Mike Rigney. And so that's a look top to bottom at your butt kicker starting grid. As always, though, here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series, we have 4 featured onboards and not much time to work our way through them, so let's very quickly jump on board and cycle through the featured onboards. Matt Taylor has the AlkenTech onboard, providing high-end sim racing equipment since 2018. For more information, visit AlkenTech.com.
With the HyperX onboard camera tonight, it's Adam Blocker. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Tyler Graff has the Graphics Esports onboard, world-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit GraphicsEsports.com.
And the butt kicker on board is with the pole sitter, Connor Harrington. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more info, visit thebuttkicker.com.
I hate to correct you, Justin. Technically outside of the front row for Connor
Yes.
Harrington, but I know what you mean. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and there's not much time for these drivers to get their tires up to temperature, to get ready for what we're about to see. The showdown on the streets of Detroit. We are racing in the AlkenTech Simulation Grand Prix of Detroit. It's a good launch. Jason Brophy aggressive on the run down into turn number 1, over the bump and over the crest. Already Carnage. Brian Carey goes around. He's managed to get out of the way of all the oncoming traffic, but heartbreak right off the bat. Brian Carey, who lives just on the other side of the river, has come unstuck as Connor Harrington looks to the inside, working into turn number 4. Nothing he can do there. Has to back out of it. Here comes Aaron Morgan trying to steal second place away.
A very interesting start, fairly clean for the most part. Carey is now having to take a tow. One other driver had a very slow start, and that was Matt Houston. Everybody else, nice and clean. Keep this in mind, though. The entire top 11 are on the red wall tires. Only 12th place, Andrew Kinsella. 16th, Joe Branch, and a couple others on the blacks.
And that's interesting. I would not necessarily have wanted to be on the black tire at the start, because especially with that short run, it's not going to give you as much time as you necessarily want to build up the speed and to work yourself up to racing tempo. But already a bit of a breakaway starting to form. Ryan Otis at the tail end of the top 4 has Brian Beard behind, but 2.2 seconds the gap between 4th and 5th position. Adam Blocker leads with Connor Harrington 2nd, Aaron Morgan, Ryan Otis top 4, no changes there. Brian Beard to round out the top 5. As lap 2 starts to get underway, you can see the push-to-pass usage on the tower as well. Aaron Morgan already on the button and searching for some speed to try and close the gap to the cars in front, to try and make a move on Connor Harrington in front. This is a race which is going to be about rhythm. Someone who hasn't been able to get into the rhythm is the King of Chins, who finds himself down in 21st position now as he cycles on past Matt Taylor in the number 8 AlkenTech NHR Esport machine. Not sure what happened to Joshua Chin on the start.
He, remember, started originally in 6th position. I thought I heard something towards the backdrop. How about this? Remember the mention of the cold tires during qualifying?
Oh, no.
He had a lot of space, and guess who went straight into a runoff area and had to back up the car?
Well, it's so easy to do. I'm just a little bit surprised that someone as consistent as Joshua Chin would have made that mistake. And as we'll work our way through the final corner, I should say, technically it's the penultimate corner, because turn 14 is a very fast right-hand kink that these guys are working through now. Bit surprised for Joshua Chin that that's what's happened there, as push-to-pass being used further behind. I think we have just about calmed things down enough. For the record, Matt Houston started from pit road, so I think that's why he's down the tail end of the field, just trying to make sure if there was a track blocker, he was well out of the chaos, out of the carnage as well. But the RaceSpotTV replay machine misses nothing. Let's start with what happened to Brian Carey here on the start. So instantly has to defend from Joshua Chin. Oh, there's a bit of contact there.
Yeah, try to arc it on down. Looked like there may have been a touch there with the right front tire to Chin. Here's the look from above, and you see Chin's already got the inside. Missed a little bit of the apex, and boom, Carey loose the back wing, and he took several seconds to get going. Then the next corner, Chin looks like he's going all right. Has a lot of separation, well, because everyone else had to check up for behind, and instead he ends up going to the runoff area.
Well, I guess at least the good news is it's not a mistake on pit entry for Joshua Chin, well, which is kind of synonymous with not just him, but the entirety of team talent. While we were looking at those replays, Ricky Hardin has had an issue of his own. Of course, Hardin started down the tail end of the field and slams into the wall, almost careens back into the path of, I believe that was Paul Jenkins, who was cycling his way through turn 1. Take a look on board with the viewpoint of the number 35 machine here.
Yeah, you'll see right there hard into the wall, and Paul Jenkins in the Aero X machine just dodge and avoid already. Carey and Hardin, both DNFs as a result of their incident. Not how they wanted things to start off here as we take a look at Aaron Morgan, who's coming off some good momentum from Retro Series action, which was at a street race, but there's been a big issue now. Again in the corner, a couple cars just at the toe, Arjuna.
Scott Holmes, one of them. I think Joe Branch got mixed up. There's the Sector 5 machine, which finds itself back on pit lane. It's going to be a solo mistake, surely, because he's got some gap in front, behind the 67. Again, deep under the brakes. Almost, the car in front almost goes into the wall, but that's all by himself, and Joe Branch just has to bring himself almost to a standstill to make sure he doesn't run into all of the chaos around. Well, what did we expect, Justin? Yeah.
We expected potential attrition. We're getting potential attrition.
I tell you what, though, I'm not sure how thrilled Brian Carey is right now, but he is standing by here in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. Brian, great qualifying for you. Came unstuck in turn number 1.
Yeah, this one's tough because like I had good pace, I thought, here. I actually messed up my qualifying laps. I mean, I know probably a lot of people did. It was a tough track. I could see people, invalidating laps. Could have been easily 3rd place. I don't think I could have caught Connor or Adam, but yeah, like, I mean, I'm looking at the replay, and I know there's nothing malicious or anything like that, but you get taken off in turn 2 and just have your car destroyed like that. Just, I'm not sure what else. It's tight there, and I'm not gonna. I mean, I know there is no ill intent on Josh's part, but it's lap 1, and this is a tough pill to swallow.
Side by side, Jason Brophy and James Braun as they work their way under the bridge. Still side by side. Brian, I do want to ask then about the story of the season, because I think that incident kind of sums it up for you.
Yeah, I mean, this season, I mean, it started, I think the first 4 or 5 races, I was getting top 10s, I was sitting 4th in points, and it was comfortable, and I've been learning the last couple of years, especially in the ovals, trying to figure out how to, kind of maintain my position up there. Like, I've never been strongest there, but to actually start getting, consistent top 10s, and then it's just one thing after another. Like, I've had connection issues, I've had issues with my VR, and I mean, stuff like this here too. Like, and I have to own up, put my hand up to something like Pocono and Indy, 2 huge races where that was straight up my errors there, and cost a lot of people. And I think I got Chris Fowler in there a couple times, so I've got to say sorry to him. But really, it's been a tough 2021 here in Lionheart.
Well, still got one race to make hay while the sun shines, and that's double points at Auto Club. What are you thinking about that race, given how the previous Triple Crown races went for you? You kind of summed it up there as well.
Well, I mean, Auto Club is typically one of my better ovals in the track here, but the thought, as soon as you said that, was, what was my thought? It's like, well, I can explode at twice the speed, so hopefully that doesn't happen. I'll go in there pessimistic and maybe come out with a positive thing, but yeah, you never know. I mean, I guess it's better to be out lap 1 than have to sit through a bunch of laps and then get taken out later on, right? So, quick and merciful, I guess.
Especially at a track like this, right, where it's just so mentally draining to make sure you're out of the walls for 53 laps. So, commiserations, Brian. Don't keep your head too far down. You'll be back next season, I'm sure, with a vengeance. But still one race to go. Plenty of points left on the table.
Yes. Lots of points, and I mean, we'll see how it goes. Thanks, Arjuna.
So that was Brian Carey. In effect, a hometown race for him, because like Justin, on the other side of the river, as here comes Mike Razmat to the inside of Jason Brophy. Brophy's fighting this one hard. They'll be side by side, still working their way in the entry into turn 4. Razmaster's having none of that. Here comes Andrew Kinsella, wants a piece of the pie. Brophy cuts him off. Kinsella has to wait till the back straightaway.
And there's that difficulty once going to try and make some moves here where you need to pick your spots and be careful, because if you choose Ron Arjuna, it'll take another several laps to regather yourself up together. Even with the help of the push to pass, there just isn't that amount of space to be able to just send it on in, with some of these corners being at most a car length and a half, maybe 2 car lengths at the most wide. So it makes things so difficult to be able to get side by side, and in turn, some of the drivers can use that to their advantage to be able to defend and keep track position, but it also leaves you susceptible to the undercut potentially later on.
And I mean, I think the undercut's going to be quite valuable, because we're talking about a 53-lap race where the fuel window is 18. So you've got about, give or take, a 2-lap margin, so maybe not as big as you think, but if you're doing some fuel saving behind some other drivers, that might open up the window, enable you to try something different. And that's where the red versus the black tire is going to come in very crucial as well. Of course, you mentioned it early doors. Andrew Kinsella is on the black mark tire. He's the highest runner of those. Phil Krause, who had to start at the end of line penalty due to contact in the last couple of races, is also on the black, cycles his way up into the top 15, but 22 seconds behind your race leader. That gap is really building to Adam Blocker, who now finds himself almost 2 seconds clear of Connor Harrington. You will see the number 1 car already working himself into the penultimate couple of corners. We may see some lap traffic here today, Justin.
I think we'll see plenty of lap traffic, especially second half of the race. And speaking of Andrew Kinsella, I think he may have just had something happen.
Well, it's not unexpected for... Oh!
It was a tech issue for a moment, but it lost him time on the track.
So there's 2 ways this could have gone. It could have been he hit the wall, but it doesn't look like that. The right side pod does look okay. The other issue that you can have is if you get desynced from the server, it will basically teleport you back in time. I've experienced it. It's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Looks like Kinsella down to 17th position. All that hard work, well, he gets to start it all over again.
Yeah, now 28 seconds behind the race leader. I've experienced that same sensation and issue, too, in the past. I will be honest with that. Where, say, you're running 3rd position. It happens. Next second, you're running 25th. That kind of deflates you a little bit. Let's put it that way.
A little bit. I think you're putting it mildly there, Justin. I've done an endurance race where I've had that happen. I wasn't deflated. I was more absolutely terrified that I was going to hit another class car that had no idea what was going on. It's fortunate at least that it's hopefully a one-time issue, but again, that's where someone like Kinsella, who is used to being in this series, as a veteran of the series, might just take a deep breath, relax, and fight on back. Plenty of time left to go. Still 43 laps plus left in this race as we jump on board with Lionel Kalisto, who's hunting down Tyler Graf just up the road. Aaron Morgan on the push to pass because he's now 2.5 seconds behind Connor Harrington as we work our way halfway through the fuel stint. Through turns 1 and 2. Careful not to smack down the wall. What's happened behind? Seeing an issue on my timing screen, and yeah, that's 3 cars.
That is absolute carnage, and the leaders are already about a third of the track up. Paul Jenkins, his son, is watching this race tonight, and this is not what he's going to want to see. It all started with a checkup in front of him with Joe Branch and company, heading wing to wing, and then calamity ensued for the next 5-6 cars.
So I think Branch gets a little bit sideways, and that compromises him. Believe that's Matt Houston that's able to go on through. Oh, Luis Nunez, what are you doing there? Well, that should be a pretty easy one from race control's perspective, but watch on board first with Matt Taylor, and then we'll see what happens further back. So it is a lockup for Branch, and then Taylor gets run into from behind, and this, I'm not a fan of this. Paul Jenkins, minding his own business, gets collected in the ongoing calamity, and that might be day done for him because that's significant rear-end damage.
Yeah, that is not how you want your race to end, especially not even about a third of the way through the action here at this type of racetrack, but the attrition levels are already building up. Of note, Luis Gonzalez-Nunez only had 13.7 seconds in the box. Joe Branch, after his repairs, 23.6. They're now 23rd, 24th. And now the closest driver in terms of lap traffic to Blocker, 21st, Tony Schowen.
And what happened to Tony Schowen? Because highlighted on my timing screen, deja vu, potentially? He managed to keep it out of the wall. More reminiscent of Joshua Chin and then Ricky Harden down into what is turn number 3. Still pointed at least in the right direction. Lap 11 currently on the cards. Adam Blocker, 2.3 seconds clear. And for those wondering why there was no safety car after a 3-car pileup, no safety cars for road courses unless there is a rather significant track blocker, and well, that might have been verging on close to it as Tyler Graf. Well, you talk about hanging out the rear end. A prime example of that might open the door for Lionel Kalisto to pounce through the final couple of corners. You're not likely to see a safety car here.
Yeah, unless you have probably 4 or 5 cars blocking the whole track in tandem, essentially nose cone to nose cone. It's going to be very difficult at times to try and get that, but it is a potential. By the way, asking you shall receive, Arjuna. Penalty now just issued for the 14.
Yep, I was just getting confirmation of that as well, so it does look as though race control busy as Tyler Graf has gotten passed by Lionel Kalisto on the entry into turn number 3. Trying to fight it back. We'll set the move up as we get confirmation of the race control penalty. There it is, bottom right-hand portion of your screen. Drive-through penalty for the number 14 car. Wait and see what else will happen in today's race. Here comes Barrett Rolfe. We thought he may have been a road course ringer, given his background in GT Academy, but Barrett Rolfe has been a revelation on the ovals, despite the fact that qualifying very much not his forte. Behind these cars, by the way, swap around for the private label team hype. Philip Kraus getting on past Jason Brophy. Don't think there was much happening there in terms of fighting that back. Jason Brophy just happy to run his pace, run around, build his rhythm. Don't be shocked if next car to get on past Brophy is Joshua Chin, because he is coming fast as Nunez is down on pit road to serve that penalty. The thing that you do have to be careful with here, Justin, we saw Tyler Graf lighting up the rear tires coming through the tight and twisty stuff. If you overheat your rear tires, you then have to nurse them the next couple of corners, and that's why Lionel Kalisto was able to pounce and steal 6th spot away from him.
That's a great point, because when it comes to the tires, especially when it comes to softer compounds, which can build up a bit more heat, you have to be careful in that regard to make sure you don't get over the preferred temperature window. As we see the move from Josh Chin now on some of these cars in the back of the pack, that's for 14th, making now 13th position. If you end up, say, charging the quarters too hard, especially, say, on the short run, you'll really be feeling it by around this mark of a run, Arjuna. Especially here on iRacing. So you need to be able to be careful on how hard you push, but also make sure at the same time when you do push that you don't go too hard in turn to overheat all the tires, or at least one of the tires, to make it where you struggle the rest of the run.
Well, you can just see how bumpy it is coming through turn 11, getting on the power. Barrett Rolfe wheel almost being ripped from his hand. Rolfe, who is nursing an injury to his left hand. Oh, almost smacks down the wall, coming through onto the main straightaway. Flirting with disaster. But that's the story of road course racing, especially at a track as bumpy as this. That's the unique thing about the Lionheart IndyCar Series, about the NTT IndyCar Series as well. The fact that when you compare the street courses to the ones that get run in Formula One, for example, those courses are much smoother in nature. I think of course, my hometown Singapore. I'm not biased at all, but definitely the best street course in the world. But those are much smoother, right, Justin? At a place like this, I think about some of the onboards that we see in the real world, just how hard it is, in some ways, for drivers to hold on to the steering wheel, given that there's no power steering here today.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to managing these bumps, it can really cause you to really shake around in the car, especially depending on your sim rig as well, with how much force feedback you're feeling in these corners and how difficult in turn it is to turn the wheel because of all of these bumps, shaking that out of stationary movement compared to, say, a very smooth racetrack or a newly paved racetrack and some of the air circuits across the United States have seen. Now, when it comes to this. You just have to be able to fight and battle it out when it comes to these bumps. If you manage it wrong, like we've talked about, though, you go around and say bye-bye to the race car.
So, lap 15 might see cars onto pit road in 2 laps' time. I would, if possible, try and extend it to lap 18, but easier said than done. This is the battle, of course, just on the edge of the top 10. Phil Krause is coming and charging hard. He was half a second quicker with a 1:16.902 than the rest of the cars in front of him right now. In terms of pace drop-off, quite drastic. 15.875, that's the fastest lap for Adam Blocker. Last time around for your race leader, fastest car on track, a 1:17.019. 1.2 seconds of fall-off. Not insignificant, and that starts to build the question in my mind. Do you elect to take the black tire, the primary compound tire, and what's the fall-off like on that? Because as Joshua Chin does cycle past Jason Brophy back in the pack, he's only dropped off about 0.6 of a second so far. His fastest lap, yes, he's been in traffic, is a 1:16.970.
Yeah, honestly, that pace differential is still a little bit...
Barrett Rolfe hit the wall. I was a Barrett wall there for a second. Definite contact. Has he gotten away with it? Sorry, Justin. Didn't want to cut you off.
Well, at that point, he nearly basically ended up cutting his race short there with that little tap to the wall. It doesn't look like it's too bad right now. They are keeping my passing a fair bit of traffic here, but Barrett Rolfe at the very least keeping consistency. Speaking of pit stops, though, a couple drivers that just elected to come in, Arjuna. Larkamp, Kinsella, Newsom all just ducked in.
Fresh Firestone rubber going onto these cars. Full tank of fuel. Interesting call. Who will win the race off of pit road? It's close between Kinsella and Larkamp. Who's going to back out here? Kinsella has the inside, but I'd argue he's in the slow lane, so should have to concede, but he's not having any of it. After that technical issue, he'll cycle his way out in front. Larkamp, Newsom following in tow. Pit stop time for these drivers, about 8 seconds stationary. Newsom and Larkamp going to squabble down on the entry into turn 3. Nothing doing there. Meanwhile, out front, battle continues to go on. This is great fighting, but this is what road course racing is about. Making sure you're in the rhythm, not knocking down the wall, and pouncing when the opportunity presents itself. Jay Brandt just hit the wall as well.
And Alexis Newsom from that pack of drivers who just pit also spun around. And I was about to note, too, Larkamp and Newsom stayed on the hards. Kinsella essentially went to the red wall tires on that pit stop. Here's the look at Newsom essentially coming off through the corner, trying to take a little bit more arc, a little bit of curb in the middle of the apex, a big lockup to make sure Newsom didn't completely lose the car there.
Yeah,
that's absolutely dangerous spot to slide around.
That's good car control. You can very easily mount the inside curb and moments. She does actually nose into the wall, but she would have minimized the damage there, so pretty good car control to lock it down just in the nick of time. Lap 17. Where is Adam Blocker? Working his way back on to Strand Drive. Turn 12 ready to greet him. I've hit the wall on the outside of turn 12 too many times to count. In through the final corner onto Sunset Drive. Not pitting this time around. Where's Connor Harrington? He's going to stay out as well. So lap 18 looks to be the magic number for the cars out front.
Here, and at the very least, especially with the fast pace some of the drivers have had in essentially clean air, it's to the point where Blocker's nearly 5 seconds up. Morgan is now 2 seconds back at Harrington from that point, keep in mind. So they're really spreading themselves up at the very tip of the field here. But for some of these drivers who are really even on pace, like a Rolfe, like a Brandt, like a Rasmus, it's been fairly entertaining to say the very least, but I'm curious how they elect to play the strategy, knowing you have to have that air compound used, but at the same time knowing, well, the fall-off's not bad with the primary tire we've seen, Arjuna. That pace number isn't even matching the same total, keep in mind, until right about now that they were seeing on that primary tire compared to some of the reds right now. Some of the drivers were running 1:17.6s. They're hitting that right now in the reds.
You can also see on the left-hand side of the screen the push-to-pass usages for these cars. You get 10 allocations of 60 horsepower bursts to push you down these straightaways to try and make the move happen. Adam Blocker, Connor Harrington have been pretty sparse on the button. Not like Ryan Otis, who has yet to even touch the additional horsepower at his disposal. Adam Fraser's been a little bit more willing to use that ration. Important to note, it's not just push to pass, it is push to defend. How drivers cycle through those usages, very, very important. Pit stops underway, lap 18 in the books. Only Ryan Otis has come down from the top 5. Indicates to me, top 3 cars getting some pretty good fuel numbers as Tyler Groff follows Ryan Otis into pit road.
Really good fuel numbers, if anything, right now, especially with keep in mind Blocker and Harrington not using too much push to passes. Otis hasn't used a single one this entire race, just knowing the way this track has been flowing out. But definitely looking like these drivers are able to stretch it much further than our estimates by at least 2 laps minimum already, and that essentially is looking like, for some, it might open up the opportunity for Reds to close it off if you're able to stretch that and limit the amount of time as the car with a red car stopped.
That's Joe Branch in the Coca-Cola machine who was towed back to pit road. And I think there it was just frustration boiling over, not feeling comfortable potentially, and feeling he was a bit more of a roadblocker rolling chicane than he wanted to be, and not surprised then for someone like Joe Branch to pull himself off. Adam Blocker stays out. Connor Harrington pulls onto pit road. He's going to be followed in by Aaron Morgan. We'll wait and see now if Brian Beard will follow suit, but effectively the top 5 had broken away from Beard on back. It was 25 seconds between Blocker and Beard in what was net 5th position.
That's absolutely incredible. And just shows the consistency of Adam Blocker as a driver, as one of the top competitors in open wheel competition on the platform. But as you can see, Harrington very quick on the jacks. Morgan, I think, just took a page out of his Retro Series book. Took a little bit less fuel there, Arjuna. 8/10 quicker stop.
Could also be that he had burned less fuel in that first stint, and so therefore needed to put less fuel into that car. Connor Harrington has stayed on the red. So did Aaron Morgan. Now we get to wait and see how the pit stops will shake out. Joshua Chin appears to stay on the black mark tire, so he's feeling pretty comfortable on the primary compound. Looks like Barrett Rolfe has managed to cycle in front of Tyler Groff by pitting slightly later. They work themselves in towards turn 3. Groff dives it to the inside, but Barrett Rolfe holds on. Some pretty good fighting going on here, and Adam Blocker does roll himself onto the pit road for the first stop of the race.
So it's looking like, based on the numbers with Blocker at the moment, 20 or 21 laps, may be able to stretch it to about 11 laps to go. It's almost looking like at this rate, he's trying to aim towards a max points day, the way this is shaping out. He really wants to lock this up tonight.
Not just that, he wants to make sure no one else leads a lap here on the streets of the Motor City. And I gotta say, given that Blocker had built his advantage up to be that sizable, the fact that he's gone the longest of any of the cars out on track is remarkable. It speaks to the dominance that he has here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series.
Particularly with this road course racing ability. The ovals, he's shown good consistency to be able to find himself up to the front at the right time at the end of the race and play the strategy games in that mark. But for the road courses, it's just been the raw pace, it seems, Arjuna, right from the get-go. And there's a reason he's been a multiple-time champion and has been able to win so many races in the series in turn.
And you spoke to his record, almost has won half the races he's competed in this season. A top 5 streak that dates back to September of 2020 and the Chicagoland Speedway and the race that we had there last year. It's been a blockbuster year for Adam Blocker. The gap out front, though, is down to about 3.5, so the undercut worked nicely for Harrington to at least close the gap. Not sure it's necessarily going to cycle in his favor. Tyler Groff on the button, working down the back straightaway. Rolfe goes a bit defensive to the inside, covers off any potential move as they head in through the very tight infield section. This is a tricky complex of corners, especially to get the power down. And guess who's climbing? Phil Krause, already up to 10th position.
No shocker there, as Connor Harrington just set the fastest lap of the race.
Now we see if Blocker responds, because of course that was the first flyer for the number 44 machine on the fresh rubber. Adam Blocker did also stay on the red mark tire, so looks like he'll be going to the black primary compound in the closing stages, which will be a very short stint for him. Interesting to note that he's going to save the short stint for the black tire. Maybe he'll go a bit short in this run. Also of note, left side of the screen, Barrett Rolfe on the primary tires. see how things play out for him. Tyler Graf is side by side with Jay Brandt. Phil Krause wants to make it 3 wide, knows he can't afford to do that, takes full advantage of the situation, gets the position on Jay Brandt. Next up will be Tyler Graf.
So Jay Brandt essentially saying, I'd rather finish off this race than force it side by side, going through some of the tight sections through 3, 4, and 5. That might have been the smarter call to be able to get some decent points. Brandt having a top 10 run today. But here's the look from Graf. You can see just how much wiggling around that back end is starting to get along these bumps still right now, especially with some of the air drivers looking to pounce.
I'm going to steal a Justin Princeism, wibble wobble. I think that's what we're seeing from some of these cars, especially through turn 11 there and getting the power down. Really, the rear end ultra compliant in wanting to move around, not ultra steady in wanting to stay in the pointed in one constant direction. These cars, 7th on back, continue to squabble. In front, Brian Beard coming under charge from Lionel Kalisto. Adam Blocker on his opening lap, a 1:16.011, so he doesn't get the fastest lap. He is already, though, faster than Connor Harrington, whose pace has started to dial back down as his tires start to bleed off the amount of grip that they've got here today. 22 laps in the books. Adam Blocker has led every single one of them.
And talk about domination station, it's just been that way for Blocker as we take a look at the battle between Beard and Kalisto. The pace has been there from the onset, and it's been difficult to stop him. When it comes to Kalisto, meanwhile, we mentioned that rookie battle for those standings and how drivers like Kalisto could come away with a solid top 10 minimum. It's looking like he's going to be amongst those in that conversation. He and a few others having some solid runs from that grouping as Blocker to the top board.
1:15.554. So he sees Connor Harrington's lap and says, I've got some push to passes to burn. I know these are the red tires when I'll be fastest in this race. I'll go take 3 seconds, 3/10 out of your lap time.
Do you think he heard you?
Maybe. I know that Blocker does like to race in somewhat of silence. So on the ovals, for example, the Adrenaline Motorsports team will, of course, be in a voice room with each other and communicate about strategy and whatnot with each other. Here on the road courses, it's about focus, rhythm, making sure you make no mistakes. And for Adam Blocker, that means silencing himself from the noise around. Doesn't need help for strategy, doesn't need help for spotting. It's all on him. Wants to make sure he's the one who delivers out on track. Working through turn 6. Back onto Strand Drive. Here comes Phil Krause on the button. So, though, is Tyler Graf in front. Graf only has 4 usages left. It's going to be a little bit hard to defend from Phil Krause at this point in time, but Krause is charging hard.
Keep in mind, these cars are getting to the point where they are really close to bottoming out, and I've been hearing all throughout these entire runs a bunch of scraping, a bunch of near-wall contacts, at least 1 per lap, Arjuna, from some of these drivers, so they're at that very fine limit of how hard they can actually push without the car just saying no and heading off towards a wall right now. Ralph with a great Sector 3, though, to be able to go to those limits, to be able to build up a buffer now over Graf and company, with Graf struggling on quarter apex here.
And this is where the experience for Phil Krause, ultra impressive in the 2021 ISOW season. To the inside, push to pass active, should be pretty easy to secure that spot, and indeed up to 8th now for the number 22 car. Heavy braking zone of turn 3, great passing opportunity. This is the battle of man versus machine versus fellow man versus the track itself, and it really is putting on some interesting battles. Lionel Kalisto still trying to hunt down Brian Beard as they work their way under the Corvette bridge. A little bit wide from Beard, but that's the thing about a place like this, right, Justin? You need to watch for the major mistakes. Now, the minor mistakes you can get away with as long as it's in one of these sections of track where it's pretty narrow, pretty tight, and hard to take advantage. It is, I think, really one of those places where the drivers that know when opportunities are about to present themselves, they're almost psychic, omnipresent. They are the ones that somehow manage to be on top.
I'll take that even a step further. When you have a driver, say, getting loose in front of you, in a lot of cases, guess what happens? The next driver behind gets loose, even more so, and you end up having a train of cars getting loose in that sequence where it's difficult to try and hold on amongst that entire grouping, so you need to be prepared for that, as well as, look at that, a major mistake.
Descari Autosport number 33 trying to defend from Phil Krause, locks up the tires, slides himself through the corner, now down to 11th position for the driver that was hard charging earlier in the race. It's so easy to make a mistake, and well, I'm just glad that we can't necessarily say that was a commentator's curse, because we thought Krause was going to get past. Here's a look. He's on the inside and just too deep. You can see he tries to turn in, but immediately knows the right front is going to lock up. He's going straight into the wall if he doesn't stop steering into the corner. Good job to at least recognize that, although he is now down to just 2 push-to-passes left in today's race.
Yeah, that's concerning, the push to passes, but in regards to that move, I will say this, Arjuna, it was just a matter of just outsmarting him. Force him to take it too defensive when you just take your own line knowing the mistake he's about to make, and he just essentially forced Ralph into a near rookie mistake. And now Ralph's paying the price for that, back in that 11th position to the point where he's lost the toe of Jay Brandt.
Working their way through turns 1 and 2. Next car in line will be Joshua Chin. Gap out front, back up to 4 seconds. Blocker and Harrington are trading times back and forth. Last time around it was 1.5 tenths quicker for the number 44 car. Barring a catastrophic disaster for Adam Blocker, he will secure a 4th consecutive Lionheart IndyCar Series title here tonight in the town he now calls home. And this is where you were talking about his dominance on the road course. I think one thing that we haven't necessarily talked enough about him is you mentioned consistency on the ovals, but it's knowing when to fight. I think back to Michigan when he had to fight his way up through the field. He then waited patiently until the final lap of the race and pounced, stole a first victory away from Phil Krause, but what a drive that was.
Yeah, he knew exactly how to time up the run and where he needed to play it out. We've seen that a couple different races, not just the Michigan race. Thinking back to, Chicagoland is one of the more recent examples where he knew where he needed to position the car. It was just a matter of getting the run to get there. Still came away with a top 5 run minimum in that respective race. He just knows the exact position he needs to be on X lap to get the run that's strong enough to take away the race win. Because on the oval side, it's not just about, okay, let's try and lead every single lap. Say it's a close race with a very draft-heavy racetrack, it's about knowing, okay, how big is this run going to be from a car behind?
4.5 seconds clear. He was 3 tenths quicker that last time around. Has dropped off 4 tenths this time, but still 2 tenths quicker than Connor Harrington, building that gap back up once more. 6 push-to-passes left in the pocket of the number 1 machine. Phil Krause has already closed on the back of Lionel Kalisto. He's been really charging through the field after that end-of-line penalty. And a driver that I think for 2022, if he decides to return, definitely going to be a favorite to contend with Adam Blocker in the championship standings.
I wouldn't be surprised if he is at the minimum top 3 finisher if he was to return with the points.
What's happened to Michael O'Brien? Well, he's back on pit lane. That's what's happened.
I don't think it's scheduled, though, because he's lost parts of his front wing end plates, and you'll see why here, where going down the straightaway, and the tire barrier says bye-bye wing.
Yeah, no, let's ride on board and watch here, just a little bit deep. You want to brake just about before that Corvette bridge, almost to the inside curb, and he's lucky not to have ripped off the left front tire, but can see already the steering heavily damaged, immediately tows his way back onto pit road. End-of-line penalty as well for Michael O'Brien in the 45 machine. Almost won a first Lionheart Retro Series race on the streets of Long Beach last week. Now has to gather himself back up. He'll be back in action tomorrow night on RaceSpotTV when the Lionheart Retro Series heads to America's National Park of Speed for its penultimate round of the 2021 season. It's the week of penultimate rounds. First on Monday, it was the Lionheart Speedway Series. Today, it's the IndyCar turn. Tomorrow it's all about Lotus 79 action. Here comes Phil Krause. Don't think this battle's going to be long for the taking here.
Wouldn't be surprised if the move comes for the taking at the end of Central Avenue. Krause, though, didn't get the greatest run, though, over the crest of Turn 2. Had really leaped up off the back tires there, that corner apex. He's still trying it, though, but at this point, you can't afford to have the Weeble wobbles, is the exact term you were looking for earlier, because you lose the momentum and lose the chance to pounce.
Weeble wobble? It's not Wibble
Yes.
wobble?
It's Weeble wobble.
Interesting. Well, why is it Weeble? I have to ask.
I don't know. Good question.
We'll have to dive into the history books and figure that one out post-race potentially. Chin was on the button coming down the second straightaway and the run down into turn 3. Unable to get the pass down. He's down to just 3 button pushes left. 360 horsepower burst to get on past Barrett Rolfe. 2 cars with the black mark primary tire, so I would not be surprised if we see them both cycle to the red. Chin has to cycle to the red alternate tires. Barrett Rolfe will have a full option of cars. You just sent me a link here, Justin.
Yes, and apparently Weeble wobbles are a toy. That's where I heard that.
Okay, so it's a toy. Meanwhile,
Yes.
up front, Phil Krause to the inside of Lionel Calisto. Going to make it look very easy. I don't think the 97 can afford to fight this one back. Goes a little bit deep into the corner. Phil Krause from the tail end of the field, now up to 6th position.
Well, as the catchphrase goes for the toy, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, and Krause definitely having a bit of the Weebles there, but it's not falling down the pylons, able to move on forward. Now it's the question of how quickly he gets up to the 5 before the pit stop window at about 5-10 laps.
I'm a bit transfixed as to what Weeble wobbles are right now. They're interesting. That's what I can say. Maybe we're going to have to get one of them for the RaceSpotTV studio. Hashtag give us enough money to build a studio. It would just be great, Justin. Imagine if you and me could be in the same room broadcasting stuff together. That would be so much fun. It's what we all dream of. I don't think Luis Gonzalez Nunez dreams of being in the tire barrier, though.
Yeah, Luis Gonzalez Nunez's season of horror seems to continue here tonight. It involved an incident earlier, and then there's even more time, currently running 20th, right behind Connor Harrington, mind you, and just locks it up, and then runs it into the wall.
Fortunate not to get more damage than what he could have done there, because the roll into the tire wall is a little bit slower than one might have thought. Here comes Krause, though. Next target, Brian Beard. And if you had told Phil Krause that from an end-of-line penalty you'd have a top 5 finish, I don't think he would have believed you and would have bit your hand off. Pit window is open, though, because Matt Taylor has come down to pit road. It's going to be a somewhat lengthy stint for him, but he is 3 laps down from the leader, so after the incident he had, not surprised to see that.
I think he broke part of his wing, though, so that may have been part of it. Yeah. Can confirm Matt Taylor coming out of Strand Drive just went too wide, and Arjuna, as soon as he went too wide, essentially clipped off that left end plate. Now has to have the full wing change. It looks like a lengthy stop for Taylor, who's already been having a rough one.
Look at that. Managed to cue up that replay to perfection. I'm not going to undersell myself there because I was total random guess because I didn't see anything on my timing screen about what happened to Matt Taylor. But watch here. Entry into the penultimate corner. I talked about how I've made these mistakes more time than I care to count. Matt Taylor comes afoul of the tire barrier in through the penultimate couple of corners. So maybe next time around the pit window will open. We'll have to wait and see. By the way, for private label Team Hype, it was great to see team owner, co-owner, Tommy Milner, now that his season has come to an end, at least in full metal sports car competition, jumping onto the iRacing service and trying his hand at some rallycross today in the IRX All-Star Invitational. That didn't go terribly for him. Made his way into the feature, had some fun. Also learned that rallycross is in effect a cage match on wheels. Had plenty of contact, something that these drivers today are plenty familiar with. And Justin, you've got a report on something that's happened further down the field.
Remember the struggles of Andrew Kinsella. He's worked his way up to 14th, but he's hit the wall not once this lap, but I believe twice now. Started off exit turn 2, where he exited too wide, slammed hard into the advertising boards on that side. Now he's also built up some left front wing damage that has gotten worse as the lap has progressed as well. Kinsella, things are not looking great for him after, remember, having the technical problem earlier. From the same position, he gets back up to where he was before, and now the car's falling apart.
Yeah, you can see that damage. The wing slightly crumpled in on the left side, and that's really going to hurt him through these high-speed corners. You might not think that there's high-speed corners at Belle Isle, but trust me, you'll feel that lack of downforce. Kinsella needs to nurse that car all the way back to the pit stop window, which is probably going to open in about 2 laps time or so. In fact, it might even be open this time around. So second pit stop imminent for all of our drivers. What's happened to Matt Taylor as he's come off a pit lane? Into turn 3.
I think he was laying by some of the traffic, and I think realized right here, this car's not turning. He had more than a minute of damage repairs, and I think Taylor's realized this car is cooked. He's parked it for the day.
What's the local specialty here, Justin? Seafood?
In Detroit, you mean?
Well, around this area. You said you're just across the river.
Well, that's an interest. I actually am not 100% sure how to answer that question.
Well, maybe Brian Carey in our YouTube chat can give us an indication, as it looks like Tyler Groff has decided to become the first car to roll itself onto pit road on the lead lap. So here we go. Followed in by Barrett Rolfe as well on the black tires. See which way he's going to go. Into the box, up on the jacks. 4 fresh Firestone tires, full tank of fuel for Tyler Groff, because he's got to make it all the way to the end of this race from here. It's about 8 seconds stationary for him. Barrett Rolfe does appear, switching back onto the red Mark alternate tires for Andrew Kinsella. This is going to be a slightly lengthier pit stop. How lengthy is the question? About 5 seconds slower, 13 seconds stationary in the box.
So basically the wing change coming in right there in what has been a blisteringly quick race, to say the very least, throughout the day now. Keep in mind, Adam Blocker is getting to the point where he's in heavy traffic with some of the cars who are coming out of the pit, some of them who still have yet to pit. He's to the point where he's nearly reached the back of Barrett Rolfe, who's already completed his service. Here's the look of the map, keep in mind. And by the time the pit stop services end, it's going to be still a fairly busy traffic jam. Before they started coming in, he was around 17th. Reaching the back end of that group.
Down the back straightaway, Mike Rasmus on the button as Phil Kraus onto pit lane along with Ryan Otis further down the field. Otis releases himself off the limiter. Where is he going to cycle out? There goes Joshua Chin. Phil Kraus into the box. It's a long stop for Kraus. Did Kraus hit the wall? Kraus is done.
And, oh my goodness. What did Kraus do? He's out of the car. I think this may have been on his pit entry here, or at least prior to it, because it looks like he was driving sideways for half a lap there, Arjuna. You know what he did? Out of turn 8, he slid the tires completely into the wall.
This is 11, so... Oh, yeah, you can see that right front tire already pointed opposite to the direction of travel. Watch here. Watch here. Sideways on the entry, and boom, right sides into the wall. Wow. The charge comes to an end for Phil Kraus. Dramatic fashion. I saw a comment in the YouTube chat. Detroit eats cars. Seems to be very true here today.
Yes, indeed, and I will say I haven't eaten too much in Detroit, but I do know the cars are definitely a big part of that, with it being the Motor City. It's the same on this side of the border as well. Well, that and our pizza. Meanwhile, pit stop for Rasmus.
Rasmus is in. Where is he going to feed himself out? Probably outside of the top 10. Here's Brian Beard. Aaron Morgan has actually managed to come down onto pit lane and emerge in front of Brian Beard. Great drive from the 48 car so far. You were talking about his performance last week at Long Beach. Great drive today once more on the street courses. 37 seconds behind the leader, 32 behind Connor Harrington. He's only about 3 seconds off the back of the 44 car. This undercut might work a treat for him. If I'm Connor Harrington, I have to respond this time around, and guess what? Guess who's on pit road?
Connor Harrington right on schedule. He's been about 18 laps now, both stints. So that's not a surprise. I'm curious, though, how long Blocker's able to extend this run forward compared to the last time. The difference, though, is Blocker was in very open traffic before. This time, Blocker's in heavy, heavy traffic. As we take a look at some of the others who have not pit yet, keep in mind.
Here's Blocker. So there's the traffic. I think he has to be careful. He knows the undercut's going to be powerful. Harrington immediately gets on the button as he works his way off of pit road. I would maybe respond. He's got 2 cars in front of him, one of them being Barrett Rolfe. Adam Frazier in the 17 up the road as well. And we're about to find out, I guess. Through turn 11, here comes Blocker.
Keep in mind, to remind for the second time here, both those cars in front of already pit, so Blocker doesn't necessarily have to pass them knowing they're on fresher rubber. I'm wondering at this point if Blocker doesn't peel on down, he might have been trying to save a bit of fuel with them. Instead, he just says, you know what, let's come on in. We're inside the window. Still have to switch the compounds. 15 laps will be the final run.
Probably the wisest strategy, if we're being honest here. It is, don't let yourself be held up. Yes, those cars might have been on fresh tires, but the reality is Blocker has been in a class of his own, and in effect, the rest of the cars are squabbling over the IndyCar 1.5 championship, as Formula One fans would have dubbed it potentially. Blocker off a pit road. Harrington, 6 seconds back. There's Harrington across the line. Of course, tires already up to temperature and pressure. Gap now stationary, about 4.5. Harrington on the button once more, trying to close the gap. Now we have the final pit stops underway. Brian Beard, Lionel Calisto, Jay Brandt, Joshua Chin, all onto pit road. This is where drivers know it's the dash to the checkered flag.
A lot of those drivers that are battling for a top 5, as mentioned, already peeling on in. Blocker has indeed cycled 4 seconds. He's actually picked up a little bit more time, Arjuna, compared to the last run. So now with all these main drivers limiting the amount of time here with the primary tire, it's essentially going to be, I'm not expecting the fast laps to be in the range for a lot of these drivers outside of maybe Chin and a couple others here the rest of the way on forward. But here's the driver to keep in mind. Chin, who's been on the recovery drive, may be someone to push hard. You also have drivers pushing hard straight off the pit lane in the past lap.
Brian Beard was side by side with Kalisto on the pit exit. Now has to deal with Tyler Graf, whose tires are ready to race. Graf gets one. Can Lionel Kalisto slip down the inside of the silver number 5? Joshua Chin in the popcorn seat and ready to pounce. Jay Brandt wants to get in on the fun as well. Long way around for Lionel Kalisto, but he's up to 7th position.
Chin's gotta have to be patient here. He's on the faster tire, yes, but the main thing is you can't just send it up into the inside at this part of the racetrack unless there's a major mistake here, especially with these drivers, all of them essentially on cold tires fresh out of the pit lane.
Chin also does know, though, that this is when his tires will be a little bit quicker because those primary tires come up to temperature just a little bit slower. They have a little bit less grip earlier in the run. Chin needs to make sure he goes now, takes full advantage. Beard already 1 second off the back of Lionel Kalisto. Chin's going to have to wait. Working through 1 and 2. Next opportunity, down into turn 3.
Of no Kraus officially out as Chin ready to go on the push on forward. No button, but Beard is using one to try and defend here at this point. Chin just doesn't have the power. He nearly sends the power to the back wing, though.
He's got 2 push-to-passes left. I think that's why we're seeing him be a little bit just hesitant with when he wants to use it. Is making sure that he's got it when he needs it later in the race. Been a quiet day so far for Stefan Larkamp in the AlkenTech NHR Esports number 62, but he is our sim experience driver profile today. 86 starts, 37 top 10s, 9 top 5s. First debuted on the short ovals at Phoenix a couple of years ago. Best finish in Season 6, 2nd place at Watkins Glen, a road course, but very different to what we see here today. Hasn't had the easiest of seasons, Justin. Best finish in 2021, 10th place here in the IndyCar Series.
Yeah, he's had some good speed in a couple races, Arjuna, but the luck just hasn't been there, whether it's having the right strategy timed up, or more so, staying out of trouble whenever he's inside the top 10 or even the top 5, really. And it's just been where it almost is like you have a bad run, keep on having the bad runs. It's very hard to build up momentum and hard to build up a top 5 run, let alone in just one race alone, as Chin takes advantage of a mistake there by Beard out of the corner.
Burned up his penultimate push to pass, so just one usage left of that 60 horsepower burst left for the King of Chins. 40 laps in the books here in the AlkenTech Simulation Grand Prix of Detroit. Final stages of our season, penultimate race of the season coming up on RaceSpotTV. Adam Blocker has dominated once more. He's inevitable. He continues to lead the way. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and the streets of Belle Isle, where we are racing for the penultimate time in 2021 and the Lionheart IndyCar Series. It's the AlkenTech Simulation Grand Prix of Detroit, the jewel on the streets of the Motor City. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside for the action today, as always, is Justin Prince. You can follow your favorite team and drivers by heading to RaceSpot.tv/Indy to follow along with live timing of today's event. Justin, it's been one man. Pole position, fastest lap, dominant so far. But with 10 laps to go, Adam Blocker is not far away from clinching his 4th consecutive Lionheart IndyCar Series title.
He entered tonight hungry to secure that title. He's kept the pace up right from the drop of the green flag. He set the fastest lap mark by several tenths of a second separation. He has been untouchable from the drop of the green flag and led every single lap. He's proved why he is the king of Lionheart competition, has been for several years. It's just been that type of a night for Blocker, and it's been difficult to even match the lap times with how he's been, especially after the first couple laps of a run.
To illustrate the golfing performance, Connor Harrington is 5 seconds back. Aaron Morgan, 15 seconds back. Ryan Otis, 26 seconds back. 5th on back is 45 seconds adrift from Adam Blocker. Incredible. Yes, it's been helped by the fact that cars like Joshua Chin had issues early doors. Chin trying to fight his way back, has gotten past Kalisto a couple of laps ago. Now fighting on the tail end of Tyler Groff. I mean, a great drive from him. We saw Phil Kraus on his own recovery drive as we look rearward from Tyler Graf and the Graphics Esports onboard camera. Unfortunately, though, for Phil Kraus, made a mistake all by himself, smacked the wall coming in through turn number 8, retired himself down into 21st position.
Yeah, and it's just been difficult to try and keep it clean for some of these battles. Keep in mind, with several of the drivers locking up into these corners, you really want to end off the season on a high note, whether it's tonight for the road course swing or whether it's for the Triple Crown finale with Auto Club. And part of that is, if you want to have something to be proud of heading into Auto Club, you want to finish well here. And for some of the drivers, I think you can say there's some really strong runs. Tyler Graf, this is one of the best runs we've seen from, honestly, the entire season in that number 26. As Jay Brand has just had an issue.
Chin took a look to the inside, just a little bit too far back to make anything happen. Let's take a look at what happened to Jay Brandt in the 15. He was having a good day, was behind Brian Beard. What happens here? Climbing the way up in towards turn 6, knocks the wall down on the inside, then the inside on the other side. Well, all ends in tears. Day done just like that. The streets of Belle Isle not willing to take any prisoners right on board with the 15 car. First scraping the inside from there, straight into the wall. Nothing he could do. While we were taking a look at that, I believe Tyler Graf made a bit of a mistake and Joshua Chin took full advantage.
Graf nearly knocked down the wall, in fact, going through the fountain, around the fountain section just about there. Those are the opportunities you mentioned, where if you make the major mistakes, you need to be ready to capitalize there, and Chin quickly taking advantage before it gets to where it was impossible to keep it side by side and or try and make the move to capitalize on that one. But now, I will say this, Chin has had probably the recovery drive of the day. Remember, started in 6th, missed the corner on the first lap in turn 3, had to come back from the late 20s, and is right back where he started.
I just saw a comment, by the way, from Brian Carey, who we talked to earlier in the day after his lap 1 incident that took him out of the race after a great qualifying. That's the trick to races at Belle Isle. Do that early, so you don't have to endure 53 laps here at a track where I'd argue it's more mentally demanding than Long Beach to make sure you're out of the walls, because it's bumpier than Long Beach. Both street circuits, both slightly different in nature. Personally, I'm a fan of Belle Isle over Long Beach, but that's neither here nor there. I just think this is also a bigger challenge for the drivers.
You're right about the challenge, as we talked about, because it's not just as simple as you have a lot of wide space, let's put it this way, when it comes to Long Beach and the streets. Like, you have 3, 4, 5 car lanes to work with on some of the corner exits here. You're in the pristine confines, essentially, of an island park. It's not as simple as, okay, you can expand the track on 4 to the edge of the roads. This is the road system, essentially, on the island you have to consider here, and it has been for several years. It's not the easiest circuit to try and make your way around in the first place. You need to be pristine and picture perfect to get the job done at this type of racetrack. And for tonight, as we've seen, most of the drivers have done well on that mark, but some of them not so much, as Matt Houston appears may have had an issue. He just had to pit after 8 laps.
Yeah, that's an unscheduled pit stop for sure. It was a very slow in-lap for the number 99 machine, the Team Raceverse car. See if we can dial up what happened then to Matt Houston. Unfortunately, Belle Isle has a shelf life, an expiration date coming up soon. The race here will move from the streets of Belle Isle to within the Motor City. Not a fan of the proposed layout, if I'm being completely honest, and it's a shame because partially this race is moving because the residents of Belle Isle have complained. However, I'd argue that Belle Isle is a lot nicer of a place than when this race first started, because of the infrastructure that's built up as a result of this race, the popularity, the amount of traffic that this race brings to the island as well.
The main discussion point I've heard, though, on that mark is it costs a lot to maintain it, too. To be able to make sure the pavement's up to par, and especially, as you can tell with the surface the way it currently is the circuit. But here's the main thing to consider too. It's right in front of the Renaissance Center, the current layout for returning to downtown, right? If you are, say, the company that's in the Renaissance Center, you want to have that scenic view of it, the finish line, essentially, and the car zipping right by your headquarters front door. The interesting thing is going to be how it plays out, especially with, you know, the Winter Detroit Tunnel right by the course layout.
Hopefully it's better than Nashville, because I wasn't a fan of... I think going to Nashville is great. New market, new fans, such an exciting place to have a race as well. But the track just missed the mark. We're not going to talk about the issues with the race itself, because we could be here for more than the next 4 laps, which is going to blink on past in just 5 minutes time. But hopefully, in 2023, when we do go racing in that proposed Detroit street race, things go well, the layout works, and we're all wrong. If you drew out a couple of the tracks, the street circuits that we have here in the IndyCar series, for example, I think of Toronto, which, when you look at the track from above, might not strike you as a great race, but it is a great race. And I can't wait for IndyCar to go north of the border once more and to finally be racing on the streets of Toronto.
I can't wait either, because it's, of course, been a long time coming with the current world situation, but it's understandable with the current situation. But it's to where, if you're a racing fan in Canada, you can't wait until you have that ability to see live motorsports action again. And I think for 2022, there's going to be a lot of hype for that time of the year, let's put it that way, if you're in that city.
I'd ask you if you're going, Justin, but I know you work yourself to the ground, so you'll probably be too busy to go, but I really think you should. I think you'd love it. There's a visceral thrill to being around race cars that I know you have experienced, and I haven't seen these Indy cars in action, mainly because I'm not a fan of driving to Laguna Seca, which I know is a bit hypocritical of me to be saying that you need to go, but I think you really need to go.
You're not wrong about that. I've thought about it, and especially when it comes to the Belle Isle side, I've watched the races from this racing circuit and layout. You see those little boats that you just seen a moment ago? Imagine the real world weekend, the last times they were held here at Belle Isle, that entire riverside for the Detroit River filled with boats. Those are people on the Canadian side of the border in particular who, say, have their own boats, watching and spectating the race, and looking on through with someone trying to see through the treetops and watching the action go on the edge of the racetrack. It's a very popular way to watch the race, let's put it that way. But there's nothing that beats being actually inside the layout of the racetrack.
As long as you're not a fan on the track. Which I don't know if IndyCar has had too many dramas, but you know how it goes when we do our races on other tracks, and here on RaceSpot, and I do my research, I always get reminded of moments. Hockenheim, for example, I did a race there this past weekend, and reminded that there was a disgruntled ex-employee of a Formula One team that strode his way out onto track. I don't think that IndyCar has had that problem recently.
Not that I can think of, but for Adam Blocker, I will say this, he's had no problems the entire night. I haven't seen him have a slip up on the wheel. He's only lost time to Harrington a couple laps, and that's it. He's just been right on it from the get-go, and he's made it clear he didn't want to leave any doubts in case of the potential possibilities for the season finale. He wanted this championship tonight, and now he's approaching 1 lap to go.
Auto Club in a couple of weeks' time. Blocker's presence questionable because of his duties as a Ilmor engine engineer. Say that 3 times fast. Junkos Racing will be doing a test as they return with Callum Ilott to full-time IndyCar competition. But white flag in the air. One more trip around the streets of Belle Isle. Adam Blocker looking to dominate once more here in the Motor City.
And now at this point, you have to wonder what's going through Blocker's mind, because this is essentially the piece de resistance of this year's championship run for Blocker. He's dominated races, but he hasn't dominated them at this magnitude like tonight. Every single lap going his direction. Absolute domination. Reached the 30-plus win mark this season, and now half a lap away from winning in what is, for him, right around the corner from where he lives currently.
Can anyone stop Adam Blocker? In a regular year, Connor Harrington has had a 2021 that is worthy of a championship. But Blocker is inevitable. When you think he's ready to make a mistake, no, you are wrong. He is ready to win and win once more. Dominant on the streets of Detroit, it is a 4th title in a row for Adam Blocker in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. He's the Lionheart King. He is inevitable. Blocker wins the AlkenTech Simulation Grand Prix of Detroit and claims that 4th title on the trot. Incredible. It's hard to remember a series where one driver has been so dominant, but Blocker continues to blow away expectations, to run away from the field. 8.5 seconds clear from Connor Harrington, victorious in the Motor City.
He just continues to balloon on forward his win totals in this series. It's been absolutely incredible to see how he's been able to perform and be able to find his way to victory lane. The all-time winner in this series, now 32. And that just comes in now 98 starts. That win percentage is about 30%. His top 5 percentage now around 75 after tonight.
Drink it in. That's what I said earlier today when we were crowning a world champion for Adam Blocker. Same sentiment applies. Drink it in, enjoy it. It's a championship run which will take a long time to be matched, if it ever is matched. What a race, what a season. What a way for Blocker to send himself into HyperX victory lane and back into the championship circle. Waiting for the rest of the cars to come across the line, but I think we've got some well-earned donuts for Adam Blocker as he works his way through the penultimate couple of corners, tamed the streets of Detroit, and after a victory last time out in Road America, he is also now your road champion for 2021 in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Burn the house down, Adam Blocker, and celebrate a 4-time Lionheart champion.
An unreal run, an unreal season. And the performance like tonight, and the performances this season, it'll be difficult to top in the years to come. This is a campaign that I think Adam Blocker will never forget. And keep in mind too, this is now to where it's been the king of Lionheart's past few years. This is the staple to all of that, as now he joins some of the other drivers who are still making their way around the circuit.
Traffic jam on the streets of Belle Isle. Let's go ahead then and take a look at our Carnage race results for the AlkenTech Simulation Grand Prix of Detroit. Adam Blocker leads every single lap on his way to another victory, 3 on the trot here on the streets of Belle Isle. Connor Harrington, 8 seconds adrift. Second place in qualifying, nothing he could do to challenge the number 1 machine for victory here today. Aaron Morgan, great drive from him, continues the strong run he's had on road courses, on street circuits in particular, across of Lionheart competition. Ryan Otis down in 4th with Mike Rasmussen in 5th. A good recovery drive from Joshua Chin after having an incident on lap number 1 to rebound back up into 6th position. Tyler Groff, Lionel Kalisto, Brian Beard, Adam Frazier to complete the top 10. Barrett Rolfe in the 33 car finishes down in 11th, had to fight his way with some alternate strategy to the cars around him, but Great to see him performing on the streets of Belle Isle. Andrew Kinsella bouncing back from his own issues, technical and crashing related. He finishes in 12th with Jason Brophy 13th, Stefan Larkamp 14th, Matt Houston rounding out the top 15. Alexis Newsom 16th, Luis Gonzalez Nunez had a drive-through penalty after early incidents for him. He finishes in 17th with Mike Rigney. James Brandt, Tony Showen through the top 20. As Adam Blocker continues to circulate in reverse here today. He's got so much fuel, he's just getting that energy out on track. Phil Kraus, one of our first retirees, or most recent retirees from the race. Heartbreak for him after charging through the field with an end-of-line penalty. Down in 21st with Matt Taylor 22nd, Michael O'Brien 23rd, Joe Branch, Scott Holmes through the top 25, Paul Jenkins, Ricky Harding, and Brian Carey. 28 cars took to the field. Only 20 of them made it to the checkered flag. Well, Blocker continues to celebrate, but we dive our way into the HyperX post-race show because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15 for 15% off all orders. Well, hopefully Adam Blocker will stop his celebrating soon enough, but before we get there, Justin, let's just celebrate his season, the run he's been on. We talked about it. In any other year, Connor Harrington and the season he's had, championship worthy. But when you have a driver like Blocker that is averaging a podium a race, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, even with some of the championships he's had in the past, he's had strong runs. He's been able to get himself victories, but never with this amount of consistency. This was the most consistent season, I think, it's fair to say, in Lionheart Series history. And Blocker's to the point where he is still burning it down, and for good reason. This may never be topped ever again. If it is, it's going to take a lot of work to be able to reach the levels he has in 2021 in this series.
I'm struggling to conceive a run which sees 4 consecutive championships in a row that doesn't involve Adam Blocker having won another championship or 2. Maybe he makes it 5, maybe he makes it 6. Question remains, though, what will 2022 hold for him, especially given that the NTT IndyCar Series will be on a full schedule of events, and we'll see them racing around the United States once more. But into HyperX Victory Lane we go. We are joined by the 2021 Lionheart Series champion. Took some time to celebrate there, Adam, but some well-earned donuts at the end of the day for you.
Yeah, it was a good race for me. Definitely pushed. You had to push really hard in qualifying to get the maximum out of the car, like you always do at Detroit. And I was really close to the wall, and I got sideways in a couple of corners, but I feel like I did a pretty good lap and put it on pole. And from there, I kind of thought that I had the long run pace advantage on the guys behind me, so I just tried to push a little bit in the first stint to build a gap, and really from there just played a conservative strategy and managed the gap. And didn't want to push too hard because it's Detroit and you can end up in the wall pretty easily. So,
what's it like racing at Detroit? How have you mastered this place? Because you've led every single lap here in Lionheart competition, won every single race as well.
I don't think I've mastered it, to be honest, but yeah, it's just being patient. I mean, it helps a lot when you're on pole. It really makes it a lot more straightforward because it's so hard to pass here. You really have to rely on pit strategy, and Connor caught me a lot by doing one lap undercuts, and I think if he had been a little bit closer, it would have made it more interesting on strategy. But yeah, I mean, the main thing is just keeping it on the wall, because I'm sure you saw a lot of people hit it, and that's like it's the easiest thing to do here. So.
And now 4-time champion. How does that sound? How are you going to celebrate this one?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Obviously, definitely feels good to get this one wrapped up here at Detroit, which is now a home race for me, and to win both the Michigan races. That's pretty cool. Yeah, just gonna hang out with the guys in Discord for a bit and enjoy the night.
Well, congratulations, Adam. Hopefully we'll see you for the Triple Crown race, because You have a chance of becoming the first driver to win all 3 of the Triple Crowns in Lionheart history, just adding to the legacy you've already left here. 4-time champion, the Lionheart King, Adam Blocker, wins once more. So that was Adam Blocker. Next in line, second on the track, and it will be second in the championship. Justin Prince is standing by with Connor Harrington.
Connor, tonight, you were the second quickest car on the racetrack, but in the end, it's a P2 finish in the pre-ultimate race of the season. How would you break things down tonight for you and your team?
Yeah, man, that feels like that's been the story all season, doesn't it? Just second fastest. I mean, I don't know, just dirty air in the first stint, just destroyed the front tires, and I think we had equal pace in the second stint, and then the third stint, once Adam was kind of out there, I kind of just said, okay, we'll just finish second, we'll just be done for the night. But really, really proud of everybody at Private Label Team Hype for us to come into this series and lock up the team championship with one race to go is really great. I'm really proud of how Josh and Jason and Phil has fought for this all year, so it's really good. That's just really great for us.
We'll say this, still waiting for the official confirmation on that, Mark, but how would you talk about the synergy your team has had this season? Because it looked like in many races, you, Josh, and on the ovals in particular, Jason, were in sync, and then you add into the mix Philip Kraus. You guys seem to work as a cohesive unit from the get-go.
Yeah, that was really kind of the thing that we stressed at the beginning of the year, is that we wanted to work together. I think it's pretty clear that we played the team game better than anybody else this year, which some people might say it's team orders or whatever, but we were out there really to just to help each other, and the feedback that we got on driving stuff and setup stuff and in-car tools, without Jason, Josh, and Phil, I don't think this season goes as well for me. So I really just have to thank them and everybody at Private Label, and it's a little bit bittersweet, to finish second, finish runner up, and be the second best car tonight and all season, it feels like, but it's been a really fun race with them all year.
There is still one more race left to go in the season, keep in mind. It's the final oval of the campaign, Auto Club Speedway. Your thoughts going there for what's expected to be a wild end to the great year of 2021 Lionheart has had, essentially, for its IndyCar series?
Yeah, we have a chance to be the old champion. I think we're up maybe like a handful of points there in the oval championship. An outside shot at the Triple Crown championship as well. It depends a little bit on what happens with Adam. Adam's been obviously very strong all year, so a little bit of a chance there to pick up a couple championships there. It'll be a wild and crazy race. I'm sure it's Auto Club. There'll be 7 wide, and it'll be a pack race. So I'm sure it'll be a lottery. But we're looking forward to everything, and it's just been a great season. A little bit bummed with the result, but I'm happy with how we drove.
Well, I got some good news. Remember what you're referring to? Just coming in from George and Zoto, it is now official. Your team is now the team champions. Congratulations.
Yep, thanks. I have to thank everybody at Private Label Team Hype, Ethica Clothing, Tomahawk Shades, Tommy Milner, and Ty Stover giving me a call on the off season last year. It's been great. Thank you to all our teammates and everybody that supported us, and we will catch you guys at the next one.
That's Connor Harrington, second step on the podium tonight, and helping his team secure a title on that front. But Aaron Morgan, meanwhile, started third, finished in third, and what was it like for you? Because honestly, for much of the race, it looked like a bit of an island for you.
Yeah, it was just a cruise. I was really worried about Ryan Otis behind me, because in practice race we battled it out and stuff, but I just kind of finally put a really good qualifying lap together and just kind of cruised. It was just the game of don't crash, because I knew I wouldn't be able to catch the guys ahead, and I was surprised, honestly. I was pulling away. Once I hit like the 5-second point, I said, okay, now I can damage my wing and I'll be okay at least and have a chance. And then I got farther ahead, and yeah, it was just a cruise.
Yeah, 10 seconds back is the nearest car to you, Ryan Otis. Curious on this, Mark, since you've ran the Retro Series race and won the Retro Series race at Long Beach, there was the discussion of Long Beach versus Belle Isle. How would you describe that, and which, in turn now, after tonight, would you say you prefer street course ride-wise after this evening?
It's really hard to say because I've had a soft spot for this track for a long time, and Long Beach is also just really great, but this one's so bumpy, and it's hard to say. I think I'd take Belle Isle in the IndyCar, but in the Lotus, it would have to be Long Beach. I don't even think the Lotus could run this track, right? It really just depends on the car, I think.
I mean, you did win in the Lotus at Long Beach, so there may be a bit there, but overall, though, it's been a strong campaign. You just matched your best finish of the season with third. For the second time now, you finished in third. One more race to go. What's kind of now the approach to end off the Oval campaign in the full season at Auto Club now for you to try and end it on a high note?
I'm just gonna go out there and run. I kind of disassociated myself from the points halfway through the year. I've been having such a hard time on the ovals in this, whether it's I make a small mistake and hit the wall, or there's a wreck in front of me, or something happens and I get caught up in it. And I've just been trying to enjoy it in the IndyCar this year. I've just had so many lost opportunities, and I'm mainly just trying to focus on retro, especially tomorrow. It'll just go out and have fun. That's really the goal for the last one in IndyCar.
We'll see how you do. Your best finish on an oval this season, 7th. All the best finishes above that are on the road courses. Congratulations on the podium.
Thank you.
Aaron Morgan rounds out the top 3 tonight, Arjuna. Been an interesting race and an interesting end to the road course swing.
And I've just loved it. I mean, what an up and down roller coaster road courses can be, right? You've got really different tracks. You know, you have the Silverstone, fast sweeping open tracks that you have, but then you've got claustrophobic, bumpy roller coasters like this where there's no room. There is absolutely no room for error, and it's a track which you make a mistake, it's ready to punish you and punish you big time. And once more, Adam Blocker wins here on the streets of Belle Isle, but still one race to go, like you were saying, and I can't wait for it. High speed, adrenaline-filled, double point showdown. Auto Club is going to deliver. Hopefully we do get to see Adam, because if he managed to become the first driver to win a triple crown here in the IndyCar Series, that's going to be a big achievement to add to what already is a big achievement in 4 titles in a row.
And it makes it even more difficult to try and match what he's done in 2021 if he ends up doing that. But Auto Club is such a difficult race to win. We've seen how difficult it was at Michigan in a 2-mile track, but this is a whole different beast with how the bumps are at Auto Club Speedway, how the draft effects can come into play a little bit at this circuit. And it's going to be where it's going to take near perfection in terms of the planning as well there. Because you make a mistake on your pit strategy, you may end up losing the main pack and putting yourself behind where you need to compete to win that race. And in turn, there's a lot in line for a lot of these drivers to showcase this is a good positive to end the season. This is an option to try and move up in the standings to end up the season. There's a lot that can build upon for some of these teams and drivers with how they finish out 2021 to try and carry to 2022.
Sounds like the Rookie of the Year standings might also be done and dusted, but here's confirmation of how the points swing as it stands. It's close, but Adam Blocker, with the drop weeks as well factored in, is your champion. Henry Bennett only 7 points in front of Andrew Kinsella. We didn't see Henry Bennett today. I didn't even pick that up until just now. So, plenty to play for, like you said. It's going to be about making sure you deliver when the chips are in the air, the stakes are high, and the drama surely will take us all the way to the checkered flag in Fontana, California. But with that said, it's time to wrap things up here from the streets of Belle Isle. One race to go in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll head to the Golden State for the final race of the season. With that said, though, we like to take the time to thank those who make all of this possible. For sim racers, the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit adds the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021, Lionheart15, LIONHRT15 for 15% off all orders.
The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more info on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com.
Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz and don't forget to use the promo code Minus273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders.
Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Look no further than the DMLC Racing channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing channel.
And there's plenty more to thank here that make all of this possible. To learn about the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series or about the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts on, visit LionheartRacingSeries.com. And don't forget, you can stay up to date and connected with all things Lionheart by heading on to social media. Follow them across Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. ESTV has you covered for your esports needs, while RaceSpot has your sim racing action covered. Subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. The week of Lionheart action continues. Tomorrow night, the Lionheart Retro Series rolls out at America's National Park of Speed. The championship is on the line. Can Matt Taylor extend the championship advantage over his teammate Aaron Morgan and the other car fighting, Mike Razmas? The next time the IndyCar Series is in action in the Lionheart IndyCar Series will be for the Double Point Showdown, the final race of the season at Auto Club Speedway. That and everything live on RaceSpotTV, and on behalf of the team at RaceSpot, for my co-commentator Justin Prince, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Congratulations to Adam Blocker, a 4-time champion in the Lionheart IndyCar Series.